Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday. No, it's not. It's Friday. Holy crap, time's getting away from me. It is Friday, December 11th. And right now, my family in Southern Oregon are celebrating, finally being able to celebrate my grandmother's birthday, who was on Wednesday, with my cousin who turned 19 today. So they're actually together as a family, which is amazing because my grandmother has been essentially in total lockdown since March. I mean, she was able to spend Thanksgiving with the family, which was nice. So I'm glad to start to see some signs of life. Anyway, it has been raining like crazy here today, and we're supposed to get some snow tomorrow, which is kind of exciting. So who knows? Because it definitely has not felt very Christmassy here at all, for a number of different reasons. But I hope you're doing well. I'm feeling a little bit sluggish, but that's okay. Sluggish is all right now. Let's just carry on with some more Erma Bombeck, shall we? All right. I've got a treat for all of you, said my husband. It just occurred to me you never saw the slides of your mother and me in the Smokies. Get me a couple more books for the projector. The picture's off the screen. I've got a shot of a dog with one ear standing straight up that will knock your socks off. Last one in, hit the lights. Reluctantly, the family filed into the darkened room as the slideshow began. For anyone watching who doesn't know what a slideshow is, it's basically like Facebook, but for old people, and you don't have any control over what you see. This is one of your mother eating a ham sandwich when she didn't know I was shooting. From the darkness we heard, that's disgusting. Put a mirror in front of her. You're going to love this, said their father. I used my tripod, and if you look really close, you can just see the tip of a wing. See it? What kind of bird did we decide that was? A flash of light hit the room as a door opened, and seconds later, we heard a motor start. Here is your mother standing by the state line again. I like to do that for purposes of identification. Oh, and here's one of your mother and me when we were first married. How did that get there? Wait a minute. There was another flash of light, and we heard someone dial a number on the kitchen phone. Oh, Lord, remember this guy? Said the narrator. You kids don't know him. We met him at one of the lakes. Wasn't it Lake Ochichaba? Couldn't get away from the guy. What was his name, Irma? He had a sister in Cleveland. She was a dental assistant, sounds like Crabtree, or... The door opened, and I saw a silhouette of my mother pushing my father out the door. An hour later, my husband said, get the lights, and I'll change carousels. The audience had thinned out to the two of us. That bad, he said, dejectedly. You could throw a war, I said, and if they knew you were showing home movies, no one would show up. I guess they think we're pretty dull, he said. Why do you say that? One of them said to me, when you're married for 38 years, what do you talk about? Show the slide of us as newlyweds again, I said. I think I'm still wearing the same shoes. The couple flashed on the screen, looking awkward and uncomfortable with the attention. Had we ever been that young? I remembered the day so well. As I knelt beside him at the altar, I outlined my plan. First, I was going to talk him into letting his hair grow out. God, I hated that burr. It made him look like a shag rug that had just come out of the dryer. In a couple of months, he wouldn't look like the same man. At the reception, I watched him with his poker-playing buddies across the room. That would have to change. From here on in, it would just be the two of us watching sunsets and holding hands at the movies. I'd have to change his eating habits from all those vegetables, designer garbage, to the things that really counted. Rolls, pasta, dumplings, and gravy as a beverage. He was slow and precise. I'd have to come up with a way to speed him up. His personal habits needed work. He never put a cap on a ballpoint pen. He hung up the phone backward because he was left-handed. And his sense of fashion was non-existent. He wore winter clothes in the summer and summer clothes in the winter. It is 38 years later, and absolutely nothing has changed. My husband stared at the slide, consumed with his own thoughts. The bride should have marched down the aisle with a buyer beware sticker on her forehead. Married a week, and she fell apart. Her tonsils became infected, her teeth began to rot, Her kidneys became infected, she got three childhood diseases, and she needed glasses. She would have made a great little fixer-upper for some pre-med student, if he had been able to afford her on his salary. She had an annoying way of dispensing responsibility. She took the appliances as her domain until they broke down and the warranty expired. Then it was always, you'd better fix your toaster. The lawn was hers when it came to planting flowers, but when it needed cutting, it was always, your lawn is getting ahead of you. There was never any doubt who got custody of the septic tank. I wonder if our kids really appreciate the hard work it takes to make a marriage survive, he said, putting on another carousel of slides. It's a lot of give and take. I sat in the darkness, nodding my head slowly. You don't know give until you're married to a man who controls the television remote tuner, and you don't know take until you sit there through an evening of subliminal experiences of denture creams, breakfast cereals, and wine coolers that all run together. It was always understood that my husband, Darth Vader, would be the custodian of the television tuner. He regarded the electronic device as his personal force of good over evil TV shows. I'm sitting there watching Dallas, and just after Sue Ellen says, Miss Ellie, I've got to sort things out. I thought for a few days I'd go to a 90-pound walrus flashes on the screen, and Bill Conrad's voice says, the Bering Sea with thousands of other bulls to mate. Instinctively, I know he has changed the channel without asking again. I know in my heart that as long as he holds that box in his hand, I will never get back to South Fork. One night, I am comfortably engrossed in a deep, meaningful film when Liv Ullmann suddenly turns into B. Arthur, who turns into Frank Gifford, who turns into the Boston Pops, who turn into two wrestlers. When I try to explain that Liv is at a crisis in her life and is about to make a major decision about her baby, he says, I'll turn it back. I just want to see what's on the other channels. By the time he turns Liv back on, the kid has grown up, married, and is talking about his mother in the past tense. Power. That's what it's all about. Somehow, women just can't capture that same feeling of control by standing on the rubber mat at the supermarket and watching the door slide back and forth. Sometimes, I smiled, I think our kids think we were born old. It's a shame they didn't know us when we were silly and unpredictable and did dumb things before we became so organized. My husband was staring at the screen again, lost in his own thoughts. I married a woman who would bury no garbage before its time. I never saw anything like it. There could be 2 tablespoons of peas in a pot roast the size of a Kennedy half-dollar, and she would say, let's save it. I counted up once. It took an entire week for a leftover to make it to the garbage can. Day 1, it went from table to refrigerator in an elaborate ritual of joy. This will make wonderful vegetable soup. Everyone believed her. Day 2, every time someone opened the refrigerator door and picked up the leftover, she chanted, don't touch it, I'm saving it for vegetable soup. Day 3, the leftover was moved to a less prominent shelf, and occasionally was patted and reassured it had a future in vegetable soup. Day 4, a traumatic time in the life of future garbage. It was either tossed or was shoved to the rear of the refrigerator on the shelf next to a bowl containing 3 tablespoons of peach juice and a pit. Day 5, traditionally on the 5th day, the leftover was opened, exposed to air, and passed around to see if anyone could identify it. If it was recognizable, it was shoved in a dark corner and allowed to ripen for another day. If not, it was history. Day 6, this was a crucial day in which the peas and beef curdled, turned green, hardened, or grew fuzz. Day 7, excited cries resounded through the kitchen as the children danced around the refrigerator, chanting, is it garbage yet? Then Irma would remove the leftovers, fold back the foil, and pronounce the peas and beef dead. Then she would prepare it for burial. First she wrapped it in newspaper, then put it in a brown bag, then a plastic one, and finally put it to rest in the garbage can in the garage. I always wanted to put a sign on it. Leftover, born May 7th, died May 14th. For what it's worth, dear, I like your slides, I said, even though I do feel like a dinosaur. He said, turning on the light and stacking the carousels. I read the other day that if a divorce is to occur, it will happen at 6.5 years. I wonder what's so mystical about 6.5 years. It's the marital warranty, I said. It expires at 78 months. What are you talking about? Everything has a level of tolerance. The level of a marriage is 6.5 years. At the end of that time, the wife will have cooked 5,408 meals. It's as good or as bad as it's ever going to get. After 78 months, you will have met all the relatives away from the church. The father-in-law who eats like a Cro-Magnon, the brother who sponges, and the mother-in-law who will call your husband the baby when his gut hangs over his belt buckle and his hairline looks like the state of Florida. You don't know that, he said. Trust me. That's the time company manners are put aside and courtesy is no longer a consideration. Your husband's feet start to smell, his wife leaves toothpaste in the bowl, he cleans his fingernails at the table. She doesn't just blow her nose, she flushes it. The trousseau is gone. She's down to wearing flannel pajamas and wool socks to bed. There are children to water, feed, educate, clothe, maintain, and discipline. A goodbye kiss in the morning has all the fervor of giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to a dead parakeet. My God, he said, you make it sound like we're serving time. But wait, occasionally you see a couple who beats the odds. Did you ever read the section in the newspaper devoted to couples celebrating their 50th anniversary? There was one yesterday. Where did you put the paper? Stuffed under the sofa. I leafed through until I found it. Here we go. Maudie and Walter Slanker, married 50 years, will be guests of honor at reception, blah, 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 blah. Okay, listen to this. We've hauled water by horse and wagon, coped with the cold and the deep snow, raised and educated a family of 10, and lost a daughter, Virginia. She married excitement, all right, said my husband. 27 words for a lifetime, I said. You have to wonder, were there other moments? Did they hang wallpaper together, argue about who slept next to the wall, toast no baby month, become jealous of an encyclopedia salesman? Did she get sick of his same jokes year after year? Did he tire of hearing about her arthritis? Did they wonder about their future together the year he taught her how to drive? The year his mother babysat and cleaned her oven? Was he cheap? Was she boring? Did he have an annoying habit of picking his teeth with his tongue and making a clicking noise that drove her up the wall? Did she say every night for 30 years when he walked through the front door, "Is that you?" Did they really love one another through fevers, flu, fatness, nausea, irritability, and sarcasm, or did they just hang on? Were they there for one another when Virginia died, when he lost his job, or when she felt neglected? Did he ever know she hated peppers in the meatloaf, but for 50 years put them in because he liked them? Did he ever suspect she hated house slippers without heels, but wore the ones he bought every Christmas? 10 children. That's a lot of shoes, a lifetime of overbites, an eternity of can I's, endless evenings of PTA, years of slam doors, and an uninterrupted span of we've got the children to think about. I put my head on my husband's shoulder. 50 years. How do they do it? My husband sighed. He probably had hopes in getting in the last word. As my husband packed away the projector, I noted the calm that had once again come over the house, with all 3 of the kids out pursuing whatever it was they pursued at 11 o'clock at night. I think I'll go up and check the guest rooms. Since when did the kids' bedrooms get to be guest rooms? Asked my husband. Don't start. I told you before, I like the idea of a room making a statement. The bedrooms say, don't settle in, your visit is only temporary. The minute they moved out, everything around here changed, he said. You put a tablecloth on our kitchen table, and the next thing you know, it was a breakfast room. And a lamp and a chair turned our bedroom into a suite. I will never understand why you took the pool table out of the family room. Because we no longer had a family, I said patiently. Besides, the pool table looks better in the sunroom. It got the same amount of sun when it was just the back porch, he grumbled. Besides, I missed the desk in... What do you call it now? The media room. I don't see why you had to put it in with your sewing machine. Maybe you'd like it better in your workshop. Where's my workshop? He asked. You know very well it's in the old basement with your tools. What tools? He said. I got a hammer, a screwdriver, a dozen baby food jars with screws stored in them, and 2 broken down lawn chairs. All I want is a nice room where I can sit down and read a paper in some kind of privacy. I can't even go to the bathroom to be alone anymore. That's because we don't have a bathroom. Since we put the exercise bicycle and the bathroom scale in there, it is a personal fitness room. He smiled. Have you seen your personal fitness room since the kids came home? I kicked open the door to the personal fitness room and gasped. The mirror was fogged with steam, towels were strewn wall to wall, the shower curtain dripped water on the floor, soap turned from a solid state to a liquid before my eyes, tubes without caps dotted the sink, The toilet tissue spindle was empty. Wet washcloths and dirty clothes hung from the exercise bicycle. Newspapers littered the floor. The toilet was filled with Band-Aid wrappers. Open bottles of shampoo and rinses lined the bathtub, and a hairdryer was left in the bowl. It should have been called the children's playroom. Ever since I could remember, it was their social watering hole. They came in here at the age of 2, and barring major holidays and occasional stabs at education, we didn't see them again until it was time for them to get their own apartments. What did they do in there? They projected home movies of Mommy and Daddy into the toilet bowl and then flushed so our faces would swirl and appear distorted. They floated light bulbs in the bathtub and shot at them with water pistols. They wrapped a dead horned toad in a flag once and buried him at sea. They decorated the toilet seat like a cake using Dad's shaving cream for the lettering. And when I pounded on the door and shouted, "What are you doing in there?" the response was always the same. Nothing. Nothing translates into something quite different for a parent and a child. Nothing, to a parent, means you are staring into space with your hands in your lap, your eyes glazed, and your breathing shallow. When a child is doing nothing, that is a signal for parents to dial 911. He is usually doing nothing behind a closed bathroom door. A dog is barking, water is running under the door, a sibling is begging for mercy, and there is a strange odor of burning fur and the sound of 1,000 camels running in place. I always wanted to know how long they had been doing nothing, whom they were doing nothing with, and how come it took them 15 minutes to answer the question. Kids are drawn to a bathroom like a magnet. There's a mystique about it from birth. Immediately after they enter the world, an inner voice says, "As soon as you learn how to walk or crawl, Bippy, you can toddle into the bathroom and throw your shoes in the toilet." "What are shoes?" says the infant. "Something you take off your feet every chance you get." "What's a toilet?" "The place you throw your shoes in just to make it bubble." I looked around. I had spent the best years of my life in this Jerry steam bath trying to train one of them to a toilet seat. I wish I had a dime for every day I put a kid on the throne and sat on the edge of the bathtub and described the water scenes from Deliverance. Sometimes I threatened them with a hole in their bicycle seat and a plastic liner in their tux at the prom. They spent so much time in the bathroom they thought the sky had a light and an exhaust fan in it. Small wonder they grew up with an affinity for this room. It became their retreat, their mountaintop, their last bastion of privacy. It assured them diplomatic immunity from every chore you can think of. "Where's your brother? I want him to help carrying the groceries from the car." "He's in the bathroom." "Hurry up or you're going to miss your school bus and I'll have to drive you to the school." "I'm in the bathroom." "Are you in bed?" "I'm in the bathroom." "Could you let the dog out?" "I'm in the bathroom." "Come to dinner." "I'm in the bathroom." In my nightmares, I could hear a minister at the altar saying to the bride, "Where's the bridegroom?" and a voice from the distance shouting, "I'm in the bathroom." Looking back, I realized most of my communication with the kids was exchanged outside of this very door, usually at 2 in the morning. "Are you home?" "Who did you think it was?" "What time is it?" "What time do you think it is?" "Have you eaten?" "Don't I always?" "Did Greg get in touch with you?" "Did he call?" "Did you get gas for the car?" "Didn't I say I would?" "Are there any towels in there?" "Aren't there always?" "Do you want me to call you late in the morning?" "Are you serious?" I'm going to bed. It's wonderful that we can talk together like this. A lot of kids, when they reach your age, become uncommunicative, and you don't know what they're doing or thinking. Am I lucky or what? Don't answer that. As I wiped the last of the water off the floor, I stood up and surveyed the room with pride. "The personal fitness room once more meets health standards," I announced proudly. "It will always be the library to me," said my husband, as he entered with a stack of newspapers. "Before you get settled," I said, "I want the bathroom scale." "Where are you going with it?" he asked. "To the reptile room. Another 20 pounds on top of the snake cage couldn't hurt." Watching them from the window, they looked like a scene from Father Knows Best. Dad in his coat sweater circled his son's car, stopping occasionally to kick the tires and huddle over the motor. His son, slightly taller than his father, in raggy jeans and tousled hair, waved a wrench in his hand. Was it only a few years ago the father had black hair and the son wore bathing trunks the size of a coaster and they were standing together in the same spot to dedicate the swimming pool? Kids we had never seen before were lined up with snorkels, rubber ducks, rafts, and the old inner tubes from semi-trucks. "For God's sake," said his father, I don't even have the thing inflated yet. Didn't you tell them it's plastic? It's only 48 inches in diameter and 14 inches deep. I've ordered bigger drinks. As he put his lips to the valve, a hush fell over the crowd. After 10 minutes of gasping and blowing, he was ready to pass out, but the pool was inflated. As he stood over the plastic pool with the garden hose, the group's eyes were riveted to the trickle of water. He held the crowd back while he added bleach and swished it around. When he finished, he said, "Now, we're going to lay a few ground rules. No jumping in with grass on your feet." And he and his words were drowned, literally. 2 seconds later, a neighbor child appeared at the door and announced our son had gone to the bathroom in the pool and they were all going home. They may have had their differences in the past, but today they were communicating. The door slammed shut with a fury that jarred the dishes. "Didn't I tell you buying that pile of junk was a mistake? But Dad, it's a classic." "You can't tell him anything," said my husband, addressing his marks to me. "What's the matter?" I asked. "The matter is," said my husband, that car was a lemon from the word go. Didn't you ever wonder who buys all those cars driven on television on the Rockford Files or the Dukes of Hazzard? Our kids buy them. Dad, the car was a 79 and only had 500 miles on it. That's because it was a getaway car. Hatchbacks are classics. It wasn't a hatchback until a garage door fell on it. Haven't you figured that out? The tailpipe is held on with electrician's tape, the windows are stationary, the springs are shot, and the motor won't turn over. In 10 years, said my son, pointing his finger, that little baby will be worth its weight in gold. It's going to take you 10 years to get a transmission for it that's available only in a small town in Czechoslovakia. You better get your act together, mister. That car is going to take money, lots of it. I take care of the car, he said defensively. Pouring orange crush in the radiator when it boils over is not taking care of it. If it's such a bummer, how come someone tried to steal it last month? If it's such a gem, how come they caught them trying to hotwire it to get it started when the key was in the ignition? I didn't ask for a lecture. All I'm asking is for a lousy $200 to get it running again. Look, son, said his father, ever since you graduated from college, you've been trying to find yourself. You want to know where you are? You're somewhere between Clearasil and bankruptcy. I have a dream for you, son. I want to see you join hands with a steady job at the altar of employment and promise to love and to cherish from this day forward. For retirement benefits or for mergers, for pay raises or layoffs, in slumps and stock splits, till death do you part. You need an incentive? You better or for worse, you're married to a classic sitting in the side yard with bucket seats and a name you can't pronounce. You're committed to it in sickness and in health for as long as you can afford gas, insurance, license fees, and tune-ups. You have responsibilities now. You have a car to support. Get a job. Our son listened carefully and headed for the guest room. For a first-generation speech, I had to admit it was pretty good. Usually our lectures were golden oldies, handed down from our parents, which their parents had laid on them. But this was a new speech for a new generation living in new times. No one had to tell our generation how to find the American dream. The molds were in place when we got there. We married early, had babies, wore practical polyester, paid cash, fertilized grass, washed our own cars, and waited for the Christmas savings check. We accepted 20-year house payments, 40-year marriages, and 30 years on the same job without question. It wasn't until we had children that we discovered no one wanted to emulate us or our lifestyle. No one wanted to inherit the fruits of our labor. No one wanted to profit from our experiences. They had their own timetable. Our generation brought with us the curse of memory. We remembered when jobs were non-existent, and there was only one way out of a world of sleeping in your underwear and buying coal 50 cents at a time, and education. I don't think we could ever forget the feeling of pride of watching our first college graduate weave down the aisle. He looked like a Supreme Court judge who had just shot a few baskets and had forgotten to change his shoes. I snapped a picture, even though he had threatened to self-destruct if I did it. I looked. He was still there, looking at me like he had eaten something that didn't agree with him. His father and I had disagreed on his choice of university. I thought the campus had a nice feeling to it, much like the paper chase on PBS. I never lost my naivete. When my son didn't write home, I knew it was because he had dropped a Bible on his foot and couldn't hobble to the post office to mail his letter. When he intercepted his grades before we could open them, I knew in my heart he wanted to have them framed and given to me for Mother's Day. As I told his father, I knew he post-dated a check for $100 so he could buy a jacket to go with his tie for the one evening a week they dressed for dinner at the dorm. Even when we phoned him at the dorm and a voice shouted, "Suds, it's your mom," there was no doubt in my mind I had dialed the wrong number. My husband took one look at the curtains flapping outside the dormitory windows, a 3-story monument to beer cans near the chapel, and a goat tethered in the student lounge, and said, "You are wrong. It's Animal House." Had it only been 4 years since he sat at our dining room table and worked out his curriculum? At first I thought the subjects were frivolous until our son explained there was a movement underfoot to make college students more literate. "What will they think of next?" I smiled. "The general consensus," he added, "is that advanced education has swung too far towards specialized studies and needs to get back to courses that prepare students for life." I couldn't agree more. He had done well in remedial bicycle watching, 3 hours, designed for the novice who has had 3 bicycles ripped off in 5 years. Bring chains, locks, small explosives, and detonator. Bicycles will be furnished. Is there life after lunch? Was enlightening, 3 hours. A seminar with guest lecturers who outlined advantages of staying awake to participate in cleaning room, soaking laundry, doing required reading, and, in the final quarter, adding a class or 2. He barely squeaked through Your Car and Faith Healing, 2 hours. This was a frank look at automobile mechanics who promised to fix your transmission by adding water. As a bonus, Dr. Weingard Schuyler, Heart Institute, conducted a lecture on how to survive an insurance premium notice after a claim had been filed. No one will know how he crammed for Parent Weekend, religious experience, or End of the World as You Know It. This covered all aspects of getting it together before your parents appeared on campus, including how to make a roommate of the opposite sex disappear and how to decorate your room with academic accessories like books and pencils, guaranteed to give new meaning to "Have a good day." The course he felt did him the most good was Jogging for Bodies, a 5-hour fun approach to physical fitness in which warm-ups were eliminated and the emphasis was on meeting members of the opposite sex. I thought he chose his courses of study rather wisely, but my husband said he feared that a general education would promote intellectual conformity and a sterile acquiescence for the sake of social cohesion. I told him the boy wanted to take social cohesion the last semester, but he needed the history of Perrier to graduate. To appease his father, he actually took a job-related course called cinema. He always loved going to the movies. At first we thought it would be fun to have a child who could splice together some of the home movie shots of South America. That was until we discovered he edited the shortest home movie ever recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records. As he explained to us, there was only 10 feet of film that had any quality to it whatsoever. I cannot believe you left home without a dolly for the camera. Our son, the college graduate. He was so naive when we sent him off to this school. We tried to give him insights that would help him in his first living experience away from the family. Insights that would help him guide his life through troubled waters. Clean underwear does not reproduce itself. Classmates who owe you money drop out of school in their freshman year to get in touch with their feelings at Big Sur. Students who write their parents get remembered in the will. Deposits should, at all times, exceed withdrawals. Pursue every roach as if it were female, pregnant, and crazy to come home with you in their luggage. A note from the library telling your parents that unless you return the volume of Erotic Dreams and What They Mean to the library, you will receive a blank diploma, will throw your mother into cardiac arrest. And now it had all come together. They called his name, and before he left the stage, he checked to make sure the diploma was not blank. The commencement speaker said the graduates were the hope of the future. He said each of them would create new horizons and focus on their destiny. The band played softly from the sound of music in the background, and eyes misted as the speaker challenged them to climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every highway till you find your dream. The kid couldn't find his car after graduation. Our son returned to the kitchen and said, "Dad, I've been thinking about what you said, and you're right. I really screwed up, and I'm going to do something about it. I'm going back to college for my master's." Both of us sat lifeless, our coffee cups frozen in midair. I had given birth to a marathon student. He would be just like Harv Stidwell, a guy I knew in the class of 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, and 53, who was a baton twirler. He had more than 1,500 friendship pictures and was the only student who knew all the words to the school song. Someone said he went right from the GI Bill to Medicare before he graduated one summer with 15 majors and 23 minors. And I've even solved the car problem, said our son. I'll move back home and borrow yours. All right. Well, thank you for letting me read to you. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And please stay happy and please stay healthy. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.